Welcome back for part 3 of chapter 1 section 4, graphs of proportional relationships. Analyze points on the graph. When two quantities are proportional, you can use a graph to find the constant of proportionality and to interpret point 0, 0. Select each point to reveal their specific properties. So at point 0, 0, we have the graph of every proportional relationship passes through the origin, which is point 0, 0, and it's a straight line. So the mere fact it hits point 0, 0 solves the first half of that definition. Then we have point 1r. Point 1r tells you that the constant of proportionality is, and the unit rate is, of course, going to be r for the constant of proportionality, and that is used to give you the unit rate of r over 1. What is the significance of point 0, 0 on the graph of proportional relationship? It is one of two pieces that means it's proportional. It takes two parts. Part number 1, Little Piggy says it has to go through the origin. The other part is that it has to be a straight line. If it's a proportional relationship, it has those two things on a graph. The number of students on a school trip is proportional to the number of teachers as shown on the graph. The line representing the relationship is dashed line because the number of teachers can only be a whole number. So you can't have half a teacher. I guess they're saying you could have half a student, but having half a student would be kind of messy too. Their parents probably wouldn't like us very much. In the ordered pairs, what does the x-coordinate represent? Well, it represents the number of teachers. What does the y-coordinate represent? It represents the number of students. What does point 0, 0 represent? It's the origin, which is the first part of showing its proportion. And what does point 125 represent? 125 tells us that there are 25 students for every one teacher. And the train noisemaker has just shown up. I don't know if my 7th graders have met Tilly yet. This is Tilly. Tilly loves to scream. All she wants to do is scream at you or sleep. That's pretty much all she cares about. Let's move forward here. Select each point to see the visual representation. So right here at point 125, we got 1 teacher to 25 students, and here you can see you have 4 teachers to 100 students. So point 0, 0 means that for 0 teachers there's going to be 0 students, which would be a good thing. For point 125, it means that for 1 teacher there is what? 25 students. This also means that the constant of proportionality is 25 and that the unit rate is 25 teachers for every 1 student. Can you find a unit rate from any point on the graph that shows a proportional relationship? Absolutely you can. All you have to do is divide the numerator and the denominator by the number in the denominator. That makes the bottom number 1, so you're going to have a unit rate, because the unit rate compares to some number to 1, and the numerator then is going to become your constant of proportionality. Now you take a minute, pause the recording, read this problem, and solve it to the best of your ability. Check your answers. In a recipe for trail mix, the number of cups of sesame seed is proportional to the number of cups of dried fruit, as shown on the graph. What does point 0, 0 and point 1, 1.5 represent? In the mix, where there are 0 cups of dried fruit, there are going to be 0 cups of sesame seed. That took place at 0, 0. Then there are dried fruits, the bottom ones, or the x-axis, so 1 is going to be right here. We're going to put in for every 1.5 cups of sesame seed on our y-axis. Check our answer. It checks well. And now we have made it to the apply portion, which I know you guys just live for. You're going to read the problem, pause the recording, and answer the following parts. Of course, remember you may want to read it 3 times, asking yourself these things. You're going to have to write down what strategy you're going to use to solve the problem. You're going to have to solve the problem giving me good quality supporting work, and I'm going to show you what that's going to look like. And from there, you can go back and write about it. You explain in your words how you can defend your solution. Pause it now. Do all that, please. So, how did I go about solving this? Well, first, I'm going to start by simplifying the ratios created by each student's cells. If those cells simplified to be the same exact number in simplest form, then the cells are going to be proportional. And I've already taken our screenshots, put it over here. So first off, we're going to pick on Michelle. Grab a nice pen here, if I can get this thing to start working right. And now it's working right. So Michelle, of course, we don't care about the zeros because the zeros are not going to give us the same number. But I'm going to take and do Michelle's item. She has a 3 over 1, a 6 over 2, and a 9 over 3. 3 over 1 is simplified. 6 over 2, if you divide by 2 over 2, gives you, 3 over 1. 9 over 3, if we were to divide by 3 over 3, gives us 3 over 1. So, since all 3 of those numbers are the same, then we can say that yes, Michelle's number of items sold is proportional for each day. But what about Angelo? So we're going to draw a line to keep our work separate. Angelo has a 1 over 1, then he has a 4 over 2, and he finishes off with a 5 over 3. So when we work that 1 over 1, well, that's just going to be a big fat 1. 4 divided by 2, that's going to become a 2 over 1 or a big fat 2. And then 5 over 3, well, that is just 5 over 3. So you can see right there you've got 3 totally separate numbers or ratios, and since you have 3 totally separate numbers or ratios, we know that Angelo's cells are not going to be proportional. So jump back over here to our answer screen and let's start putting in some answers. Which ordered pair represents a unit rate? Well, that was going to be the ordered pair of where x was 1, y was 3. That one, of course, came from where we'll go back to our chart here. That was this one right here that we saw here also. That's Michelle's first cells. That's going to be our unit rate of the one that was proportional. Angelo's was not proportional. He doesn't get a unit rate because he wasn't proportional. I've explained my answer. You should explain something here. Hope it all worked out for you. Our talk about it says, how could you have determined Angelo's graph was not proportional before graphing the relationship on a coordinate plane? I'd say by doing just what Mr. Reach did. He took and simplified it instead of graphing it because the instructions didn't say to graph it, and simplifying it's a whole lot easier method for me to do that with. And now we have our final apply problem. I got cat hair on my nose now from Tilly. In a bulk food store, raisins and walnuts are sold by the pound. The table shows the cost for different weights of raisins and different weights of walnuts. Use the tools to create a graph to help examine the relationship between weight and cost. Which ordered pair represents a unit rate per pound? So, pause your recording, do this, select your answer, and let's see if you get the right one. So when I created my graph, I ended up with one that was clearly a straight line. My red one, that was the numbers for the raisins. But my walnuts, while my walnuts were close, take a look. They're not actually a straight line. You got a little crookedness going on here. And because of that crookedness, the walnuts are not going to be proportional. That means the only one we can be proportional with is going to be the raisins, and the unit rate is going to be for 1 pound. Yep, 1 pound of raisins, which occurred at this point right here, 4.5. So what are we going to put in here? It's going to be a 1, 4.5. We're going to check our answer checks, and with that you are ready to start your homework. Make sure on your homework you're giving me good quality supporting work on any problem that I would have put it on. Anything you need to be able to justify, you need to have supporting work to prove it, otherwise I can't give you credit for it. Get started. I look forward to seeing some great scores.